Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We had stopped with Bab al-Hajar. We were going through the chapter speaking about certain people or certain groups of people whose wealth is withheld from them because they are unable to use their wealth in the correct way. So inshallah, we'll go through that today and we'll finish off the session. We had mentioned that generally in this category, or in this chapter, you've got three categories of people. The first are those who are children, unable to use their wealth, more often than not, easily cheated, especially when it comes to business, etc. So until they reach the age of understanding and they're able to transact by themselves, before that we appoint somebody or somebody is appointed in charge of their wealth to look after it. So while somebody is a child, for example, let's say you know that a child who's 6 years old, they had a father, and their father was a property tycoon. They had many, many buildings, and the father died, and this only son inherited the whole empire. If you had to go to him and you had to try to convince this child to sell you those buildings, and even if he had to agree, here we'll say that your transaction is not correct until the person who is in charge of this child's wealth allows that transaction if it is in the best interests of the child. Why? Because the child, he himself, is mahjur alayh, meaning he's not allowed to use his wealth at this current moment in time. Then the second we mention is a person who is mentally ill or is mad. Can't differentiate between right and wrong either all the time or some of the times. In those instances of madness and where they can't differentiate, if you had to buy or sell from them, your transaction would not be counted. Okay, so that's important to mention. And we touched on the fact that these people, obviously, the third category is to do with a slave, and there's no more slavery, so that's why we didn't touch on it. These two categories of people, as I told you before, when it comes to the good deeds and bad deeds between them and Allah. As for a child, the good deeds are counted. Okay, so let's say a parent took a child for Umrah, or the child reads Quran whilst they're 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old. The good deed is counted. However, their slate of recording sin against them is not yet open until they reach the age of puberty. As for a mad person, then neither is the ibadah counted, they, uh, nor are they sinful for anything that they missed. Okay, they are excused. However, when it comes to them having damaged property, even though they may not be sinful for it, or they may not be liable, they may not be taken to task Islamically in the court of Allah, or in between them and Allah, they would still be taken to task in terms of paying damages. And that would be the responsibility of the one looking after them. And we touched on that. Right. Today I want to touch on the fourth category of people and the reason why this chapter comes up mainly in Kitabul Buyu. These are people who are owing money. Okay, they are in debt. People who are in debt. Now, there's a few groups of people when you look at debt or when somebody borrows money. Either a person borrows and they able to pay back. Okay, here we have no problem. You're allowed to borrow. It's permissible to borrow as long as you're able to pay back. Or you got a second person who's borrowed and they've left some sort of collateral behind, an asset. So they say, for example, if I can't pay, I've left my car with you. We'll sell my car and we'll take, you can take your money from the sale of that car. This we still have no problem. We're talking about somebody who's taken on debt or is owing money and they don't have the wealth to pay. They're unable to pay. What do we do here? There's a few different scenarios. I'll mention them in brief because there's a lot of detail and difference of opinion. Either this person who is owing money was in debt, okay? Let's come here. We're talking about this person who's unable to or not paying the debt. The person who's paying the debt, the person who's in debt, they either have absolutely nothing to their name, bankrupt completely, or they have wealth. Wealth is there. They're just not paying. Or they don't have the wealth, but they have some sort of assets. Okay? These three for now. Right. We'll start off from the one who has wealth. If he's got wealth and he's not paying, you should remember if you owe people money and you have wealth and you're not paying, and it's time to your time is up, then this is a form of oppression. The Messenger ﷺ says in Hadith Bukhari, "Matlul ghaniyi dhulmun." A person who has the money but carries on delaying uh, and doesn't pay, then this is a form of oppression. So they should be encouraged to pay. They have the money. Now, what happens here? We carry on telling them to pay, okay? If after a lot of persuasion, etc., they pay, no problem. Or what happens is you can complain to the qadi or the judicial system, Islamic judicial system. And here the judge has two options. First, the judge will uh, look through the case, and if he's seeing that, yes, most definitely this person here is owing money, he's got the money, but he's not paying, he will first, meaning the judge will first tell him, pay up. Okay? He'll first tell him, pay up. If he still refuses to pay and he's got the wealth, the judge will forcefully take his property and sell it in order to retrieve the money of the others, or he'll force him to pay. Now, in this type of scenario, this is one piece that we've touched on, okay? One piece. In this type of scenario, what can happen is, let's say you've got person A here, and this person is doing business with uh, three other people. He's doing business with person B, person C, and person D. To make it a little bit more realistic, so you understand, let's say this is big money. Let's say it's 10 million each. So this guy, this one here, person A, is in business, so he's borrowed 10 million from here, and he's borrowed 10 from here, and he's borrowed 10 from here. Now, he's got the money, his business is moving, or his business is going. However, these three who are owed the money are worried that this person now, maybe there's a downturn in business, etc., etc., etc. Some scholars mention that if they had to go, three of them, to say that, you know what, we are owed money and the time has come to pay, and this person, a person A, owes us, they can go to the judge and ask the judge to do hajr, to prevent this person from buying and selling with any of their wealth until he pays these people out. Okay? Some say they're allowed to go to the judge to ask for that, and others say they're not. All this is under wealth. Then you got the person who doesn't have the cash to pay, but they've got some sort of assets. Okay? Here again, the same thing. We'll say that if any of these assets were collateral, he'll be forced to sell, or let's say I borrowed from you money and you took my car as collateral, and our agreement is if I don't pay, you'll then sell my car and take your money, fair and good. Let's say there's no collateral, but the person is owing 1 million, for example. They're owing 1 million. whilst they're owing this million, in terms of liquid or cash, they don't have anything. But they got four properties, for example, four houses. Each house is worth 100,000. Okay. So that will be 100 times, let's put five houses. That's 500,000. And he's got another five cars, each worth 100. Okay. And he's got, besides the five cars that he got, let's say he's got uh, another five Rolexes, for example, 100,000. So even though he's got no money, he's got assets worth 1.5 million and he's owing a million. So the people who are owed the money can open a case against him, and the judge can then force him or forcefully sell these assets. Now, when they're selling the asset, you leave that which the person needs. Okay. So let's say, for example, his houses, he's got five. He only needs one to live in. So the other four can be sold. We leave one for him. When it comes to his cars, he needs one. The other four can be sold so we can repay those who are owed money. The Rolexes, he needs one watch. The other four can be sold until we retrieve the money. But again, this is all through judicial process. He can be forced to sell. Let's say, for example, the assets that he leaves behind are not enough to cover the million. Let's say he only leaves with 500,000. So he only has assets worth 500,000, or he's got absolutely nothing. Here, if he's left a little bit of money, we'll still take that money and divide it with those who are owed, okay, according to their share. Now, how's it according to their share? If, for example, let's say this guy is owing, he's owing 1,000. I make it easy for you. He's owing 1,000. From that 1,000, for example, I lent him 100 and you lent him 900. Okay. Here you are owed 9/10 of it. You have a bigger share there. So when we retrieve, for example, $100 from there, you will get 90, I'll get 10. Why? According to the percentage of who's owed what. And after that, if there's no more money than this, no more money. We have to wait for him to get money or for his business to flourish, or you may not get anything in this world, but your reward will come in the akhirah. And the second is when it comes to a person who has nothing. Again, here there's some difference of opinion. Are you allowed to hold them in jail even though they've got nothing, meaning what they call habs? Or after they've given whatever they have, then you can't do anything because he's got nothing. Again, all this plays out through the court system. I'm just mentioning this to you so you understand that number one, these masail exist. Number two is when you owing money or you take on debt, make sure you know what you're getting into. And that's why, for example, if you look at modern day companies or modern day business, they tell you that if you're trading as an individual, okay, you as an individual, if you had to go bankrupt, let's say you were owing, uh, if your business can't pay off, they will come after your personal assets like your house and your car and until they're able to pay you until you're left with nothing. So what do they tell the people to do? They tell them make a company or LLC, for example, limited liability company. What does that mean? It means that you as the individual are separate from the business. The business is separate, let's say, and you are here. This is you. So as you're doing business, if the business had to go bankrupt and is owing, for example, 1,000, this I'm talking according to law, I'm not talking according to Sharia. If it was owing 1,000 and it only had 200 to pay, we will pay the people who are owed money from this 200, and after that, the remaining 800 it's lost. They cannot come and chase your assets. That's why they separate between the person and the company, even though you own a company. So that's to do with Bab al-Hajr in brief. And inshallah, today we've got one hadith to take in Bulugh al-Maram, and then you can ask questions if you've got any. Previous hadith in Bulugh al-Maram, Ibn Hajar rahimahullah spoke about the saliva of a dog, and he was basically trying to tell you that if a dog had to drink from the water and from the bowl, the water itself becomes najis, and his main point was you cannot make wudu from it. He then mentions the hadith of Abu Qatada radiallahu anhu, where he says the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said with regards to cats, إنها ليست بنجس. The cats are not impure. Rather, إنما هي من الطوافين عليكم. They are from, or like the people who go in and out. And here I'll explain it. So when it comes to a cat, what happened was one day Abu Qatada radiallahu anhu was making wudu. And as he was making wudu from the utensil or the bowl or the jug, the cat came nearby, so he lowered down this bowl, and the cat drank from the water, and then he completed his wudu. So somebody who was around told him, "Oh, how can you do that? Meaning, does the water not become najis?" So he said that, as for cats, I heard the Messenger ﷺ saying, "Innaha laysat binajas." The cat itself is not impure, i.e., it's not like a dog, the one we took in the previous hadith. It says cats are not impure. And then he gives a reason, or the Messenger ﷺ gives a reason. He says, إِنَّمَا هِيَ مِنَ الطَّوَّافِينَ عَلَيْكُمْ. Tawaf, like the word tawaf, means to go round and round. So here the Messenger ﷺ is likening the cats to the people of the house. So, you know, when you live in your house, you've got your family, for example, your mother and your brother and your sister and your children, and that people come in and out, in and out, in and out. So because they were, the cats easily get in and out of the houses, and in those days they never have places where they can lock up everything, etc. The cats were bound to drink the water of the people, or drink from the wells, or drink from the utensils. So the Messenger ﷺ said that count these cats similar to the people of the house. They're not impure. The same way if somebody in your house had to drink from the water and you had to make wudu, similarly if a cat had to do that, innaha laysat binajas. Why? Because they move around in the house. The ulama from this, they've taken a few benefits or a few rulings. Number one, obviously we're talking about water. If a cat, okay, or any animal similar in size or smaller had to drink from the water, we'll say that these animals do not make the water impure. So anything smaller than a cat, for example, let's say a pigeon, or those small birds you've got, or small rabbits, etc. If they had to drink from the water and you had to make wudu from it, for example, then that water is pure. Some of the scholars mention a cat and what's similar to it in size or smaller. And then they also mention that when it comes to the cat, in this hadith, the Messenger ﷺ is speaking about it's left over after it drinks. So you've got a bowl of water and the cat drinks from it, the leftover water, i.e. the saliva of the cat is clean. The cat had to lick you then, no problem. Thereafter, they then say, what about the cat itself? Is the cat itself clean or not? So let's say you've got a cat that comes in and out of the house. Every time it goes out and comes in, do you have to wash your carpet, for example? Or if it comes on your prayer mat, do you have to wash your prayer mat, etc.? Here they tell you that the cat itself, the default is it's clean, and anything similar to it. So not only is the saliva clean, if it had to walk around, you can't see any najasa on it, any impurity or urine or stool. We'll consider the cat to be clean, okay, the whole body of it. And anything similar to a cat when it comes to size. So let's say you've got a small pigeon, for example, or you've got a parrot. This parrot had to drink from the water. We'll tell you the water, if you wanted to make wudu from it, it's clean. If the parrot had to go on your sujada, for example, or whatever it may be, your sujada will still remain clean. Hereafter, some of the scholars mention that in this hadith, the Messenger ﷺ told you the cat is not najis, not impure, and he gave you a reason. One of the reasons he gave you is because it's tawaf. Tawaf means it constantly comes in and out. The people are in need of, it constantly comes in and out. And they said similar is any animal that the people are in need of. And in those days, they were in need of donkeys and mules. So they said the donkey itself, even though it's haram to eat, we'll say the saliva of it is clean. So if you've got a bucket of water and the donkey had to drink from it or the mule had to drink from it and then you needed to make wudu, no problem, you can. Also, they say that the sweat of a donkey, obviously is not agreed upon opinion. However, say the sweat of a donkey, a lot of them say is it's clean. Why? One of the reasons is because you constantly need it, and they use the word in usul al-fiqh, umumul balwa. Balwa is, some difficulty and hardship that's constant. It carries on. So if you had to say, for example, the sweat of a donkey or the saliva of a donkey was najis. Every time the donkey had to lick you, or it had to lick your clothes, or you had to sit on it for a long period of time and had to sweat, you'll have to change your clothes or wash your clothes, etc. So they said, the umum al-balwa, we'll consider it to be clean also. So here today we took two masail. We took with regards to Hajar, and we finished that off. And then we spoke about masail with regards to a cat and anything similar to it or shares the same reasoning. And if you notice, Ibn Hajar is going in order. So he mentioned a dog, he mentioned a cat, then he's going to mention with regards to insects that don't have blood in them. And inshallah, a few hadith later, he finishes the chapter of water, and then he moves on to utensils, similar to how we took in fiqh for those who were with us at the very beginning. So these hadith are also arranged in those or in that order.